Hey, you're right, welcome to another video. If you haven't been here before, I'm Cecilia Jo and this is my channel where I talk all things books. So today I thought I would go through the books that I read in July. So I think I read about 12, I think it is, this month, so not too bad. I haven't done too bad. So yeah, some of them were audiobooks, some were on Kindle and some were physical books. So I think I will go through the audio ones first and just like what I rated them and stuff, and then Kindle, then the physical books. So on audio, I've got my little notes here. I listened to 5 books on audio. The first one was a book called The First Death, which actually I think is number 4 in a series, but I only listened to this one, so I don't think you have to listen to the rest. Honestly, I'll be completely honest, I can't remember a single thing about this book. My Goodreads, I've rated it 4 stars, so obviously it must have been good, but I honestly can't remember. It was a thriller, I remember that. Oh, okay, so it was about Rowan, who when she was 5, her and her brother were kidnapped by a serial killer. Oh, her brother and her babysitter were kidnapped by a serial killer. The babysitter was murdered, Rowan was saved, her brother was killed and buried in the forest, his remains never found. So it starts with that, and then it goes to 25 years later and talks about Rowan now and how it's affected her, and I'm pretty sure she has like a police dog that helps solve like crimes and stuff, and it just kind of follows her life 25 years later after being kidnapped. I think there's another crime where some other kids have been kidnapped, and that's kind of where it starts, I think. Anyway, like I say, I honestly can't remember a single thing about it. Now that I've read that little synopsis, I kind of remember talking about it, I remember what happens. But yeah, it's 4 stars. I listened to it, I thought it was really good. I was like, now that I can remember what happened, I remember like really being, what's the word, invested the whole time and wanting to know what happens and being like shocked at the end. So yeah, it is a thriller. It's not really like a whodunit type thing, but it's definitely like there's some twists and turns throughout it. So yeah, I did rate that one 4 stars. Like I say, I listened to it. I think it might have been through like Kindle Unlimited. I think I listened to it through that. So if you have got Kindle Unlimited, you should be able to listen to that one free. But yeah, so that was the first book, which was The First Death by Kendra Elliott. And then the next audio book was The Coach Trip, which I absolutely loved. The Coach Trip by Izzy Bromley. I gave this one 4 stars too, but I absolutely loved it. It was just like a feel-good, like easy to listen to. I think even if I read it, I would probably get through it quite quick, like quite fast-paced. Just like a really nice, easy book. I don't really know what genre it went into. It was basically about a granddaughter who was meant to go on a trip with her friend, but then ended up going on a coach trip with her grandma and her friend. So it was the 3 of them that went on this coach trip. That was a coach trip for like OAPs, so it was all people around her grandma's age, and they were just like visiting different places, and a bit like, was it called Coach Trip, that program? A bit like that, where they just all get on a coach and they go to different places, and some of them are like really bitchy old people, some of them are really moody old people, but it was just such a light-hearted, just feel-good book, you know what I mean? Not like too much in it, too much plot or anything like that. It wasn't like crazy, but it was just, like I say, just a nice feel-good, easy to read book. I really enjoyed myself listening to it, and I was like invested in the characters, you know, like getting to know them and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I gave it 4 stars. So that was The Coach Trip by Izzy Bromley. And then next up on audio, which I actually got the physical book for, was To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. I didn't realise I sort of had this physical book, like I didn't put 2 and 2 together when I started listening to it. I think it's more of a book that I would have enjoyed more reading it rather than listening to it. I just think fantasy books don't always keep my attention when I'm listening to them. You know, with like the names sometimes and the places and trying to remember it all. I'm not always invested when I'm listening to it. So I did only give this one 3 stars. Also, so it's basically about a siren and a siren killer. So the siren gets her powers taken away from her and she ends up becoming human and ends up on this siren killer's boat, but he doesn't know that she's a siren because obviously she looks human. So it's a bit like it's a fantasy romance and enemies to lovers. It's a fine book, like there's nothing wrong with it. I think just listening to it I didn't really get fully involved, you know. Also, I don't know what it is about books about sirens, I just never feel that invested. I don't really, like, out of all the sort of fantasy like species or whatever, I just would never pick up a book about sirens. I don't know why, it's just something about it that I just don't, I'm not a big fan of reading about. So yeah, I gave this book 3 stars. It wasn't my favourite. I probably won't read the rest of the series, but it was written fine. Like, it was easy to, I think if I was reading the book it would be quite fast paced, like I would get through it quite quickly. But yeah, I think just listening to it kind of ruined the book a little bit for me now. But now that I know the story I can't go back and read it because I know what happens, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think probably maybe if I'd have read it and I'd got a bit more invested it might have been like a 3.5, 4 star, but I just ended up giving it 3. So yeah, if you like books about like sirens, enemies to lovers, a fantasy romance, that type of vibe, this probably you'd quite enjoy it. But yeah, it just wasn't massively for me, but nothing particularly wrong with the book. And then last but not least, on audio I listened to I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. This was probably my favourite sort of celebrity memoir that I've read. It was so good in a way that I just felt like it was so truthful, like she really opened up about it. Her story is so traumatic, what she had to go through as a child, that I didn't know anything about. I mean, I wasn't really a big Nickelodeon fan. I think it came a bit after like me growing up, you know. I never really watched iCarly or anything like that. I don't really know if it was that big. Like, it was big, obviously everyone knew about it, but I don't really remember like my friends watching it or anything like that. Like I say, I think I'm a bit after that. When it all came out I was a bit too old to be watching it maybe. But yeah, I had no idea of the stuff that she went through, like with her mum, and also just the like pressures of being a child actor in the first place. Like, obviously most of it is about what she went through with her mum and a relationship, and the sort of way her mum kind of pushed her into acting, and she didn't really want to do it that much but kind of got pushed into it by her mum. But also outside of the family dynamics, I think just what the kids have to go through as child actors, they don't really get looked after. I don't know if it's any different now, but then especially being a girl as well, with like what she looks like and how she dresses, how she acts, how polite she is, how loud she is, you know, stuff like that. Just so much pressure as a kid. She just wasn't allowed to be a kid, basically. But yeah, I think honestly one of my favourite celebrity memoirs. Like I say, I gave it 5 stars. I definitely recommend everyone to read it. Some parts are quite difficult to listen to or to read, but she's just like telling her story at the end of the day. But yeah, some of the bits are like, you think, God, she's gone through everything, and then there just always seemed to be something else, you know, that she was having to go through. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think everyone should read it. It was such a good book. And I think as well the audiobook, because it's read by Jeanette herself, I think that really added to it. I think I really enjoyed it because of that too. So yeah, that was I'm Glad My Mum Died by Jeanette McCurdy. So that was all the audiobooks that I listened to this month. What was that, 4 of them? First Death, The Coach Trip, To Kill a Kingdom, and I'm Glad My Mum Died. Yeah, so 4 audiobooks that I listened to. I'm really getting into them now. I think I never normally enjoyed them because I just found I couldn't concentrate on what they were saying. But I think it's really important to find someone's voice that you enjoy listening to. I think some books are ruined because I don't like the person's voice, you know? It's like too monotone, or sometimes it's like overly American, or I don't know, sometimes I just can't listen to it, so I just end up zoning out and concentrating on what I'm doing, so then I don't really know where the story's at. But yeah, I'm trying to really get into it. I think it's going to be really good, especially when I'm like in work. Normally I just sit and listen to music because I can't stand the silence of the office, but I think it's going to be really good to, if I can find some really good audiobooks, then I'm going to start listening to them more. But yeah, anyway, that was 4 audiobooks. So now on Kindle, I actually filmed a video at the start of the month of reading debut novels, but when I started editing it, I just didn't like it. I've scrapped the whole video, even though I filmed all of it. I didn't like it. I didn't like how I started it, I didn't like the intro, I didn't like what I filmed, so that's all been scrapped. But one of the debut novels was Done and Dusted, which I really enjoyed. It's just like an easy romance, a cowboy romance it was. Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. So it's part of I'm guessing it's going to be a standalone series. So it's a cowboy romance in like a small town. It's brother's best friend. So it's about Emmy, who is a well-known horse rider. I don't think it's called a horse rider, but I can't think of what it's called, but she does ride horses, but in like competition. Yeah, she's very well known, but she comes back to her hometown because she just needs a bit of a break from being like this person, and she fell off of her horse and it's kind of scared her a little bit, so she needed just to have a break from it so she can try and maybe get her confidence back or just work on it. She just was too scared to get back on a horse, so she comes back to her hometown where I think she had 2 brothers and the brother's best friend, and it just kind of goes from there. I think the 2 standalones are going to be about the other brothers, that's what I'm guessing. One of the brothers definitely is going to end up getting with Emmy's best friend, but anyway, that's beside the point. So this is Done and Dusted, the first one, so introduced all the characters, and then it was a bit like I guess enemies to lovers, forbidden because it was brother's best friend, that type of thing. Just a really nice, cheesy, feel good, easy to read romance. You know, sometimes you just need one of them, and this definitely was one of them. I absolutely loved it. I think because I've not read a romance for a while too, I was really like getting involved with it. I just loved it. I was so invested. So Done and Dusted, I gave it 4 stars. Yeah, it was a cowboy, you know, I just love those, like, I think because we don't have them, I really like proper cowboys, really. I love that like cowboy, small town. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, that was Done and Dusted. And then next I read To Charm a Dark Prince, which was actually my first ever ARC book, which I did a whole video on. So if you want to hear my full views on that, I did do a video on it at the beginning of the month. But I did really enjoy that book. I think I gave it 4 stars. I've got 4 on Goodreads, but I don't know if I ended up giving it like a 0.5 or something. I can't remember. But I did really enjoy it. It was in 3rd person, which was my like only issue, because I'd just much rather read 1st person books. So it was in 3rd person, which I didn't realise at first, but that is genuinely, really, it's only negative. I did really enjoy it. I'm excited for the next one. It's part of a series, the Iron Crystal series, so I am looking forward to the next one coming out. I don't know when that'll be. I think this one is out now, or it's coming out this month, I can't remember, but I did really enjoy it anyway. It's very like easy to read fantasy romance, so I'd say if you was getting into that, this is like a good one to start with. And it's definitely a sort of enemies to lovers, sort of slow burn fantasy, which has got like betrayal, there's a small bit of spice in there, a lot of like humour between the main characters. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a really good read. My only issue, like I say, was that it was 3rd person, so that's why I didn't get 5 stars. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. So that was To Charm a Dark Prince by Catherine Ann Kingsley. And then next we've got a book called Call It What You Want, which I wasn't a big fan of. Call It What You Want by Alyssa De Rogatis. I wasn't a massive fan of. I gave it 3 stars. Nothing like wrong with the writing, or it wasn't like offensive, or nothing wrong with that. I think it was just very realistic, and I'm just not a fan of reading books about like real relationship issues, you know, because I want to read and like escape everything. I don't want anything too realistic. So yeah, it wasn't massively vibing with it. I didn't really care for any of the characters. I found them quite annoying. I was just like, make your mind up, you know. And I think there was like cheating in there and a love triangle. It just wasn't my vibe. It wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy it. Like I say, I gave it 3 stars. Yeah, it wasn't the book for me. Nothing particularly wrong with it, so I think still give it a go, you know, if you like reading like love triangles. Like I say, there was cheating in there and it was very like realistic. If you like reading about stuff like that, definitely give it a go, but it just wasn't for me. I wasn't vibing with it. I wouldn't like necessarily recommend it to someone to read, especially if you read like me to escape. Yeah, it just wasn't for me. So that was Call It What You Want by Alyssa De Rogatis. That was the only Kindle books I read this month, so I will just go through the physical ones. So I got 4 physical books. So was that 4 audio, 4 Kindle, was it? Or maybe 3 Kindle and then 4 physical books. So these 2 first ones were part of my debut novels video that I just scrapped. But yeah, we've got The Abandoned Realm by Brittany Hanson. I absolutely loved this book. I loved the concept. It's basically where real world meets books, I guess. So whenever a character gets like killed off in a book, or the book doesn't get finished and it gets thrown away, they all end up in this abandoned realm where they all like survive as like characters, but they are real people too, if that makes sense. So it's filled with all like fantasy characters, like there's a dragon in it, and then there's like people, but some people are from like realistic worlds where they've been written in like literary fiction or something, or history books, and then some are like fantasy characters. So it's just really cool seeing all these different characters that are from so many different worlds, like literally from different worlds, from worlds that authors have created, all end up going into this one abandoned realm. And then there ends up being a book that's written that ends up with one of the characters going in it, who is our like hero of the book, and something happens where there ends up being a portal between the real world and the abandoned realm. So they end up having to come together, and the real world characters and the abandoned realm characters have to like work together to fix this portal. But obviously there's issues, like even in the first place, imagine someone coming up to you and saying, oh, I'm one of the characters that you wrote, that you threw away, and now there's a portal between the abandoned realm and the real world and we need to close it. You'd be like, this person's having some kind of breakdown, you know? So there's obviously issues along the way, but it was so good. It was such a good concept. I loved it. I felt so invested in the characters. I think I gave it 5 stars because I enjoyed it so much. I was having such a good time reading it. It is in 3rd person, which, like I said before, I don't usually like 3rd person books, but I think the story, the plot and the characters and everything was just so good that I kind of forgot that I was reading a 3rd person book, you know. It kind of outweighed it so much that I still gave it 5 stars. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. Like I say, I felt invested in the characters, the storyline. I wanted to just sit and read it and find out how it happened, but also didn't want to finish it because I wanted it to never end. But yeah, so as well, especially because it was Brittany Hanson's debut novel, it was so good, and I'm so excited to read the next books that she brings out. Hopefully she brings some more out. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's a really good one as well if you are just getting into fantasy, because it's fantasy and real world. It's very like easy to follow. There's not too many different places, or it's just the abandoned realm and Earth, so it's quite easy to follow. I definitely recommend it. There's not really like romance going on in there, which as well, sometimes I quite like reading books that don't have romance. I'm trying to read more of those, to be honest. So yeah, The Abandoned Realm, Brittany Hanson. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And then next, this was another one off my debut novel video, was Daughter of Darkness by Ali Cole. So this is the first one in the Wielder of Shadows series, and I actually gave this book 4 stars. I think it wasn't like, I probably would give it maybe 3.5 stars if they did half stars on Goodreads. I feel like it took me a long time to get through it. because I wasn't massively enjoying it, you know. So it followed Eleanor, who is an orphan, but not only an orphan, she doesn't seem to have anyone in her life, and she's always been told that the Fae are like scary and evil and would kill her if they saw her, and to always run away from them type thing. And then she ends up coming into contact with Fae, and it doesn't really pan out how she expected. There's definitely romance in there. I think the main lead, Eleanor, is like, she's a good female lead. She's very like strong and powerful and doesn't take any shit and stuff like that, but I just didn't feel massively invested. I think that's what it was in the characters. I feel like you don't really get to know them, I guess. I mean, you do, it gives you like background of like her family and why she's alone and stuff like that, but I don't know, I just didn't feel like connected to them, and I think that's why I wasn't enjoying it as much as I normally would enjoy like a fantasy book. So yeah, I would give it probably 3.5 stars, maybe 4. Let's say 3.75. So it's Daughter of Darkness, Ali Cole. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I think as well because I think I read this one straight after Call It What You Want, which is the like realistic one. So I think I was just feeling a bit like after reading that, you know. So I wasn't really, not necessarily in a slump, but just a bit like tired, I think, from reading that one, that I just couldn't get fully invested in this one. So it's nothing wrong with the book, it's definitely a me issue rather than a book issue. It was like the writing was really good. I'll definitely read the next one in the series whenever that comes out. But yeah, not my favourite, but definitely more circumstance than actually an issue with the book. So that was Daughter of Darkness by Ali Cole. And then the last two, I actually started a new series because I felt like I needed that after reading so many like individual books. I feel like I needed a series that I could like really get my teeth into, you know. So I actually started the Caraval series. So I read the first two, Caraval and Legendary. Definitely the third one is going to be on my TBR for August, 100%. I loved this book. It was so good. I loved the like sort of magic of it. It wasn't, I went into this book thinking that it was going to be, because it's, I thought it came under YA, so I thought it was just going to be a nice little like magic little trip that we go on. It is that, but it's also so much more. Like, it's not what I was expecting it to be at all. It is so good. There's like so many like mind games in it and things that I just wasn't expecting. So many twists and turns, so much mystery in it, and then obviously the magic of it. It was so good. I gave Caraval, I gave 5 stars. I just loved it. I can't believe this was Stephanie Garber's debut novel as well, and I can't believe it took me so long to read this series. It is just so good. It is in third person, but again, it's a book like The Abandoned Realm where the storyline overshadows the fact that it's in third person so much. It's all kind of following Scarlett. So there's Scarlett and Tella, who are 2 sisters who have always wanted to go to Caraval, and the mum left them 7 years ago, and the dad is like a horrible abusive father, so they just want to escape so much. So they end up going to Caraval, which is like meant to be this magic like week where it's just like a big game basically. If you win the game, you get the prize of having a single wish, but it's also just for the experience more than winning it, you know. People go for the experience of getting an invite and being allowed to go there. Yeah, it was, honestly, it was so good. I can't sing its praises enough. I think I'm going to read Finale this month, and then I think I'm going to read more Stephanie Garber books because I just love the way she writes. I think Once Upon a Broken Heart is the next, I think that's the first one in the next series, so I'm definitely going to read that when my book buying ban is up in October. I'm going to get those books because I just love how she writes. I gave the second one 4 stars because I didn't quite enjoy it as much as Caraval. I think because I didn't have that, I sort of knew what it was going to be about a bit more. I wasn't going in completely blind like I was with the first one, but I still really enjoyed it, and I'm so excited to finish the third one. I've started reading it already, and I'm so excited to finish it and to see what's like happening in it. Yeah, it's honestly, it's one of my favourite series that I've read. I enjoyed it so much, and I can't wait to like I say, finish finale, and then I'm definitely going to read more Stephanie Garber books. So I think if you're, you know, in the mood for a series and you think I just need to start a nice, easy to read series that is going to keep you gripped the whole time, I definitely recommend reading this one. So yeah, that was Caraval, Stephanie Garber. So Caraval and Legendary are the two that I read, and like I say, I'm definitely gonna, the third one will be on my August TBR 100%. I've already started reading it. But yeah, that concludes the books that I read in July. So we've got 4 physical books, 3 Kindle books and 4 audio books. That's 11 books this month, so definitely not done too bad. I think I'm going to try and read about 15 next month. That's my goal, because there's definitely moments where I like could have been reading and I've been doing other stuff. I've also deleted TikTok off my phone, so I think that's going to make a big difference in my time, because I just get stuck in these like TikTok holes, doom scrolling, and I just all of a sudden like an hour or a couple of hours has gone past and I've just done nothing other than scroll on TikTok. So I've deleted it, at least for a bit. I don't know how long for, but I've deleted it for now. So I think I'm going to aim to read about 15 next month, hopefully. I think it's been quite a very successful month this month. So yeah, like I say, that's 11 books read. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know any books that you've read this month that I should maybe put on my August TBR. I am going to go and film that now. I don't know which one will be out first, but either way, let me know of some books that I should read, or if you've read any of these and what you thought. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you would like to subscribe, if you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate that. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and other than that, I will see you in a bit.